Z made a small update which is in line with the whole Saturday Shenanigans thing, and it's nothing huge. I'm just going to go over the updates made, my general thoughts on them, and keep the whole thing as brief as possible since, well, it is a small update at the end of the day. Before that though, make sure to subscribe so that you're up to date on any Jujutsu Shenanigans updates. Now, let's get into the video. Plasma Wave is now aimable before the beam is fired. The damage on Wing King was slightly reduced. The end lag on Wing King's final punch was reduced. Todo now needs direct view of the enemy to use a special. The name of Todo's awakening was changed. The flashing screen effect on swapping was removed. Perfect swapping of Todo now reduces the cooldown to 2 seconds instead of getting rid of it altogether. You can now switch with throwables. Plasma Wave now stuns players hit. The bug where getting hit during Great Serpent's startup made you awkwardly float in the air for a bit was fixed. Being able to switch with players during domain expansions was removed. Being unable to rename your build saves was fixed. And finally, being unable to load your autosave was fixed. To start things off, Plasma Wave being aimable ended up being the route taken as for how to make the move usable. And I think it's fine, though I also do think the move is still pretty weak. No iframes means using it up close or trying to combo into it is out of the question. But Choso's Awakening is also kind of scary up close with how good the Blood Rain plus Wing King combo is, and people generally just like running from ultimates, so getting someone off your back isn't that hard. Sort of. It basically puts it into a hollow purple kind of situation, where the move is very hard to land, but gets you a lot of reward for landing it. Though unlike hollow purple, it has no iframes, so you have to properly set up Plasma Wave, and can't use it as a get off me tool like hollow purple, and in addition to that, it scales off range, so you aren't getting a static huge amount of damage like hollow purple, but instead an amount of damage that depends on how far your opponent is, with it sometimes going to ridiculously low amounts. It has the same charge piercing blood kind of turning where there's a short window at the end before releasing it, where you can't turn the move, making it so that if the opponent times their dodge right, they can really easily dodge the move without that much effort. Though I actually don't know how this is for console players, since they have lock-on, so maybe it's easier for them to land it. A big concern I do have to bring up though is that Choso's Plasma Wave damage scales on range, and the reason this matters is because this move only works at long range. So while it technically is a one-shot, there's zero way to actually land that one-shot part, and you're more likely to get only 20 damage, or if you're lucky around 50. Not terrible, but remember that this move drains Awakening, and is a one-time use because of the huge cooldown, so still pretty bad for neutral. Though I did actually get to use it to one-shot a domain in an actual fight, and man, that was a peak of satisfaction. Let me know in the comments if you think it should have gone further, because I can see that being justified. There's no way anybody not rage baiting thinks this makes Plasma Wave overpowered or something. Oh, and as a side note, the move actually inflicting stun now is nice. That was a huge problem with the move before that made it useless, since you could just walk right out and only take like 5 damage from the whole thing, so it's good that Z did this. After that, there's a lot of Todo changes, which is interesting. The flashing screen effect getting removed ironically makes it more disorienting, because you don't get a clear signal that you got swapped, just a swap, and that's it, though I'm fine with that. Todo needing direct view of the enemy stops you from doing some dumb swap stuff from around walls, which also isn't going to affect people in normal combat, and is really just a nerf to trolling or cheese, and specifically the void swap cheese. And throwable swapping is pretty cool, though it's important to note that if you break the throwable, you can't swap with it, and honestly, I don't see this being very useful. None of this is a huge deal. Swapping with throwables usually isn't that practical since people are going to interrupt it unless you ragdoll them, which is another issue in and of itself, but it still allows for some cool situational stuff, and that's great. As for perfect swapping of Todo getting nerfed a little bit, well, it does 2 things. 1, it makes it clear that it's not a bug and it's actually intentional, so no worries that perfect swapping will get axed from the game. And 2, it sort of nerfs Todo a little bit since you can't just swap again and again, but not to a big deal. 2 seconds is barely a noticeable nerf if you're playing normally, and I don't see this being a huge issue in any way. As for the damage reduction on Wing King, barely noticeable. It still does great damage with the R variant, just a teensy bit less. It's still by far the best Choso Awakening move, and it really does not harm Choso in a big way. His Awakening is still not great, but this nerf has nothing to do with that being the case. As for the end lag on Wing King's final hit being reduced, I absolutely agree with this change. The insanely long end lag at the end always felt extremely awkward and just flat out weird. You'd slam your opponent's face into the ground, and then just awkwardly stand there for like 2 seconds, locked in stun, and it made 0 sense. Absolutely glad that Z did this, though do keep in mind that you're not exactly granted that much extra combo potential by this. There is still enough end lag that you can't really confirm into his other moves off of Wing King, but I don't see that as a problem, and not being locked into that awkward end lag is more than enough for me. Just as a whole, this update's pretty solid. It's small, which is to be expected, because Z himself said he didn't really have the time to update the game, but all the changes here are good. Anyways, that's all I have to say. If you enjoyed the video, make sure to subscribe for more information on JJS. I'm New Eternally, thanks for watching, and I hope you have a good day. Bye.